Additionally, we talk about categories of inspections. There's different categories of inspections. For example, a fire inspector going to look at a building for the first time, that's going to be an initial inspection. Sometimes that's done for the obtaining a certificate of compliance or a certificate of occupancy. You may be conducting an inspection on a building on an annual basis, an annual inspection. You may be conducting an inspection as a result of a complaint or somebody's concerns. You may be conducting an inspection as a result of a report of inspection issued by a company officer. So these are all important different designations for the type of inspection. You may be inspecting for the preparation or issuance of a permit to do construction. You may be inspecting after that construction's been completed. You also might be summoned to inspect for a special type of event, for example, something outside of the normal occupancy requirements or occupancy abilities. For example, a special event, they might have a concert, or they might be wanting to use some type of special equipment, welding or something like that. Welding permits are common. We used to do those in the military quite a bit. Anytime they wanted to weld inside a building, you had to go out and make sure that the area that they were going to weld in was prepared, that they had protective coverings down for the carpeting and things that they might be welding in those areas. That wouldn't be any chance of a fire starting. So these are different types of inspections, specialty inspections that you might be required to do. What are some important legal guidelines? Well, since inspectors do have certain authorities granted to them by statute, first of all, they have to be identifiable. We always talk about, the safety and security of people in their businesses and in their ability to be safe in their environment. An inspector needs to be identifiable. They need to have some kind of identification on them, picture ID, be able to show their authority to be able to make that entry and go in and conduct that inspection. So they need to be identifiable. Uniforms need to be specifically state what agency they belong to, and their identification has to have a picture or photo ID so that they can show who they are. Very important, because they're a representative not only of the agency, but they're going to be going into environments to inspect, and we want to make sure that they're identifiable as an inspector. Prior to making entry, another thing that you want to do is state the reason for the inspection. Are you there to make an annual inspection? Are you there to do a specialized inspection? Have you been summoned by the building owner? If they've summoned you to be there, that usually takes a lot of stress out of it. If you're coming to do an annual routine inspection, it's always a good idea to call in advance and make an appointment. But sometimes you may be required to do an on-the-spot inspection, or you may be responding to a complaint or an advisory to inspect for a specific reason. And if doing so, you want to do that unannounced, so that you can catch them in their, if they're violating a particular code, or catch them in the act. So sometimes that may be necessary. Again, you want to state the reason you're there so that they can be comfortable with the reason you're there. And if they have something to hide, this may be when they might disclose that something is going on. So it might be advantageous for you to state the reason you're there right up front. If necessary, it's always a good idea to carry around the authority that you have. For example, a statute or a local ordinance that grants you specific authority to make entry, whether it's announced or unannounced, spot inspections and things like that. We talk about being able to enter as an inspector. You got to understand, we still have constitutional rights. Constitutional rights under the Fourth Amendment are free from search and seizure. When you're doing an inspection, in essence, you're doing a form of a search. So you have to understand the authority given to you to go in and search or inspect that premises has to be issued in specifics. You have to have the authority to be able to enter. And if somebody has the right to refuse, you need to understand how to proceed if somebody says, hey, I don't want you coming in right now, or I can't have you come in right now. You have to understand the limitations you have. You may not be able to impose that. You may have to actually go out and get an administrative warrant to be able to go in and search and conduct your inspection. So those are the things that you need to understand, those specific authorities. By having that authority with you, whether it's in writing or whether it's a specific code or ordinance, and having a copy of it, it gives you the ability to present that to the building owner in case there's any questions about the authority, whether or not you can enter their premise.